Yeah, and then you see some of these stats, guys, as we move to the defensive side of the ball. Last in the Big Ten in scoring defense and offense. Last in the Big Ten in pass offense. 9th in the Big Ten in pass defense. And then you see Jacob Charist, I believe is how you say his name, who was rumored to even get playing time against Michigan, but obviously Juice played so well that it didn't matter. But Peter, we were talking about this before the show too. This is exactly Illinois' game plan from 2008.
Hasn't changed.
And it was exactly
same
the
plays.
same. Yes, exact same plays. This Michigan defense has seen this 2 years in a row. Certainly a new defensive coordinator,
right.
But still, does Michigan have the technology to pop in the tape from 2008 and take a look at what happened?
Apparently not, because we make Juice Williams look like a Heisman Trophy candidate every time he plays against us. And that was even true freshman year, let's not forget. But, I mean, it's just inexplicable how Juice Williams can be allowed to do the same thing 2 years in a row. You really question the coaching staff on games like this.
And certainly, Brandon Graham, once again, was a bright spot, Scott.
Well, Brandon Graham came to play. He had another punt block. That's 3 consecutive weeks where he's blocked a punt. He was playing hard the entire game. He had a couple sacks even in the fourth quarter when the game was out of reach. You got to feel bad for him because he's playing his heart out and he's playing very well, but there's just no support from the other 10 guys on the field. So he was playing very well, but it takes 11 guys to stop Juice Williams, apparently.
If you ask me, he's a definitive first-round pick come April in the NFL. So enjoy those millions of dollars, Brandon Graham.
For a second, I thought you meant Juice Williams, and my jaw come unhinged. I needed to adjust it there when the shot wasn't on me. Well, I heard that on the TV broadcast. Of course, Scott and I were at the game, so I did not watch it. But that they were saying the Michigan defensive line was not maintaining its gaps correctly. But it certainly seemed that even if they weren't being manhandled by the Illinois offense. And in fact, it was either the linebackers or the secondary, Peter, that were not fulfilling their obligations. If you had to choose one core or the other, where does most of the blame lie for last Saturday's game?
Well, you talk about themes that have been present during Rich Rod's entire career here. Bad linebacking, bad secondaries, definitely one of them. You look at, I'd have to say the linebackers, they've been bad all year, and there's really just not the proper talent here to do that, and they've just been awful in pass coverage, just awful.
Yeah, but it wasn't so much the pass coverage that burned them at least this past Saturday, Scott. It was Juice Williams running, as we'll see right here, and players biting on that play-action fake and not staying at home.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the defensive line couldn't have played outstanding if they were getting these runs, but the thing with Illinois is they turn these runs that in a lot of games are 3-yard runs into 20-yard runs. And you got to put a lot of that on the secondary and on the linebackers because they were not maintaining those gaps. You see there, where's the linebacker and where's the safety on that play? They're nowhere to be seen because they're biting on these play actions going
even
one
I
way.
bit on that one.
Yeah, going one way or another. And you see on that play, Jonas Mouton was way over on the middle of the field when he's the outside linebacker. He needs to be maintaining that gap exactly where Juice Williams ran. So in a lot of situations, I think it was just a lack of discipline by the linebackers and the secondary.
Well, we are disciplined here at WOLV TV, and we need to go to a commercial break. But coming up on the other side, we'll take a look at the national picture, maybe take a little focus off our football team. Welcome back to Varsity Blue. Alex Prasad, Scott Wagner, Peter Saul. I meant Varsity Blues. I apologize. Let's take a look at what happened around the Big Ten this week, guys. There were actually some interesting games outside of the Michigan game, which was very interesting, if not competitive. Iowa defeated Indiana easy, 42-24. No, not easy at all. Indiana probably should have been up 31-3 at one point in this game. Interception returns for touchdowns, this complete meltdown by the Hoosiers. Iowa escapes. Michigan State, Minnesota went right down to the wire, and Ohio State just destroyed New Mexico State, looking like you would assume a Big Ten team looks against New Mexico State. Take a look at the standings, though. Iowa, of course, still atop at that perfect 9-0 record. Penn State and Ohio State just on their heels. And, of course, Ohio State plays at Penn State this weekend. And there's Michigan tied for 9th with Illinois, the superior team in the league. Tied with Indiana, who Michigan did beat. That's their lone Big Ten loss. And then Illinois is lurking there at 1-5. Pretty sobering there. Michigan at 9th place in the Big Ten. Let's take a look at what happened this past weekend. And Peter, we'll start with you. Ohio State whooping up on New Mexico State. Does that answer any questions for you? Do you feel any more confident in Terrell Pryor's ability to captain the Ohio State offense?
It was their Delaware State game, let's be honest. And Pryor 11 for 23, not the most impressive performance against a terrible opponent.
Not the most impressive performance. Well, I mean, they only put up 47 points. That's pretty impressive. But Scott, what about this Iowa-Indiana game? Did we learn something about Iowa besides the fact that they're the luckiest people alive and that this is just their year and nothing can derail this year?
Yeah, like Alec said, don't be fooled by that final score. They were down 24-14 going into the fourth quarter, and that was after a couple of lucky breaks in the first three quarters Iowa's way to keep that game close. So they proved that they, can score 28 points in the fourth quarter, but what does it mean that they're losing by 10 to Indiana going into the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter at home? I think we learned that they're not a team that deserves to go undefeated. Not that we didn't know that already.
Well, yeah, exactly. We sound like a broken record on this as well. But, Indiana, they got screwed out of this touchdown catch you'll see right here. They had an interception return for a touchdown when it was like 90-plus yard return, which is obviously a 14-point swing there. It was just really a disappointing game if you're an Indiana fan. There's so many big Indiana football fans out there. I suppose it's more depressing to be an Indiana fan than a Michigan fan, just going on a complete tangent because their basketball team's really bad now, too. That was their one saving grace. Michigan basketball. Okay, anyway, that was totally tangential. Ohio State at Penn State, guys, back on topic, maintaining discipline here at WOLV TV. Going to be in Happy Valley. Obviously a race for second place, assuming that Iowa does not lose. I hear a from Peter Saul. Happy Valley is an intimidating place to play. Iowa did go to Penn State and win, Peter. Who do you expect to win this game and why?
It's going to be a close one. Penn State definitely has a shot. They want to win, so if they win, they have a chance at a BCS berth still. Ohio State, if they win this game, don't forget, and they beat Iowa, they're probably going to the Rose Bowl.
That is a good point, and Iowa does have to travel to the Horseshoe to play Ohio State, Scott.
Yeah, Iowa does. So Ohio State, if they win this one and they beat Iowa, and assuming they beat Michigan, of course, that would leave them both with one loss, assumingly in the Big Ten, and with the tiebreaker, Ohio State would go. But the bottom line is Penn State is a better football team than Ohio State. So even given that Ohio State might have a little more to play for, I don't see a way Ohio State wins this game. It's at Happy Valley. Penn State has been playing very well the past couple weeks, and really the whole year with the exception of the Iowa game. And Ohio State has looked really shaky at times, so I don't see a way that Penn State doesn't win this game.
Yeah, and you saw that footage of that Ohio State-Wisconsin game, and they kind of lucked out of that one, too. Wisconsin had a lot of strange things happen in that game. Well, let's move on to the national scene, guys, and there were two big games this weekend, USC-Oregon and Texas-Oklahoma State. Both ended up being lopsided and not really must-see TV. Of course, Peter, we'll start with USC-Oregon. Now, this is the number one reason why you need to have a mascot. Mascots dressed up in Halloween costumes riding on motorcycles before your game. I mean, if Wolverine of X-Men did that at Michigan Stadium, Michigan would not lose. They would beat USC. It is a fact.
Absolutely incredible.
Anyway, so my second team, USC, loses to your second team, Peter, Oregon. Scott picked Oregon to win this game last week. Congratulations, you're brilliant. Peter, Oregon? Is Oregon the best team by far in the Pac-10? Perhaps even...
I'd say so. They're one of the best one-loss teams in the nation right now, for sure.
Right.
They have a really good team. They've had really good teams the last few years. Offense. Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator, now head coach, has been really good. Future Heisman candidate Jeremiah Masoli, 220 yards in the air, 164 yards on the ground. He's a really solid performer.
Scott, Texas goes to Oklahoma State at T. Boone Pickens Stadium, my favorite stadium in all the land for its name alone, and just wallops Oklahoma State. Texas moves in front of Alabama for that number 2 spot in the BCS standings. We'll talk about that in a second. Are you surprised at Texas? Really, for the first time of the year, they look dominant against a solid opponent.
Yeah, because I've been saying on the show before that I really had not been impressed by anything that Texas done yet this year. But it's hard to not be impressed beating a ranked team soundly on the road. So, yeah, maybe Texas is starting to turn that corner, and the only serious roadblock they have is the rivalry game at Texas A&M. But I know that they struggled against Oklahoma, even though they did win that game, but Texas is really starting to round the corner, right? And they really look like a team that can win the national championship now.
Right. Well, again, first win against a really good team, and hey, a W is a W, no matter how ugly it is, and it was ugly against Oklahoma. But let's take a look at those BCS standings. As I mentioned, Florida